Well, hello and welcome, everybody. My name's Amanda Walsh, and I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with Predictive Astrologer Anne Ortelee, and we are here for your current astrological weather, and you are tuned in to the 100th episode of the Astrology Hub podcast, which is just incredible, amazing.
Congratulations. It's very cool.
I couldn't think of anyone better to celebrate than with you. So
yeah. It's like when you go in the grocery store and they go, "You're the 100th customer. You're the millionth customer." It's like, yeah, how cool is that?
Totally,
100 podcasts. That's very cool.
So, all right. So, Anne, let's start with the scale. On a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of intensity, what would you give this week?
4.5.
Okay. You know, I'm noticing kind of a little bit of a pattern here.
Yeah. Go up.
Because last week was an 8.5 and a 9. I remember when you said that. And I was having such like a smooth, easy week. I was like, oh, Anne wasn't right. Like this is, at least it's not for me. And then later into the week, I was like, oh, Anne was definitely right. This is definitely an 8.5 or a 9.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you all experienced that as well, but 4.5 sounds great. And if you had to choose a word or a phrase for this week, what would you use?
In the flow with a lot of water, a lot of Neptune, a lot of emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Neptune aspects, a lot of Mars and water. Venus and Mercury are meeting up and they're squaring Neptune. So there's a lot of emotion and feeling, but also it's a little bit softer. Last week was like people making dramatic decisions. Like I have to end this relationship. I had like, I want to say like 7 or 8 people call, and one of them was going on, and I said, "Did you really have to send that last email?" And she was like, "Well, that's what my therapist said to me." And I'm like, "Well, you went after her sensitive part. Everybody was in the mood to be a little." And so this week, you want to go? Yeah. Do I really want to go there? I get we're having an argument, but do I want to? Is this in my greater purpose? And with Mars in a softer sign now, and Mercury and Venus squaring Neptune, there also is a little bit more people feeling just emotionally full, emotionally fraught. Because when there's those big tense weeks, then we kind of, did I really need to do that? Come down, and also more compassion. Because all the Pisces energy is much more compassionate. So I think we'll not see quite so much arguments. It's also a great week to get drunk because of all the Neptune, So there's been all these parties. That's the other form of Neptune. There was some 3,000 people at a house party. I'm like, 3,000 people at a house party? That's Neptune, lower form. So, but yeah, it's a softer week. Sun went into Gemini, a little more discussion, a little more conversation, a little less stubborn, but also definitely, that kind of space. Music, song, sleep, maybe some tears. Yeah.
So with Neptune, it's also delusion, right? I mean, there can be like confusion. So when we're in these Neptunian places, what do you advise? Because how to decipher between what's real and what's not. For people maybe that did get in arguments or did have big things happen. How do they know if what happened is leading them in the direction they need to go, or if it's just showing them something that needs to be met with more compassion? Like it's sometimes that confusion really sets in.
Well, that's the beauty and the harm of Neptune. So like as an astrologer, when I was learning, there was a woman in the class behind me learning astrology. So we became kind of friendly, and she was having a huge Neptune transit. And there was a guy who was born the day before her. So her moon was in Taurus, his moon was in Aries. And he was the kind of guy that had never had a relationship that lasted more than 6 weeks, because he would always get into like power struggles and fight with them. And, he was just one of those guys. And she had it in Taurus, which is a great moon. So the Neptune's coming, and he actually mated and married, right? And everybody went, wow. And in her case, she was like, it's Neptune. I know it's going to try and trick me. I'm not going to do it. So Neptune is, we go to the movie, we're afraid, we jump, we scream, we cry. It's not real, but it took us on the ride. So with Neptune, we're on a ride, and we have to look at what the ride is bringing us. But we also know that when the movie's over, the screen goes dark and we get up and it wasn't real. So it's a really interesting planet because we don't know. We don't know. And so the goal is when you're in Neptune, try and not make big decisions, because in her case, she was like, I'm not going to make any, I'm not. And I'm like, well, it could be a romance. She's like, oh, not under Neptune, right? And in his case, he actually finally got into one because like whoever married him, she was a nice woman, but is a nice woman. But, everybody's like, you're marrying him? Like, really? Like, he's such an asshole. All the women in the astrology community in New York were like, he's such an idiot. But that's when he was desirable, and she fell in love with him, and we lived happily ever after, and they're still together.
Did it work out? They're still together.
Still together. But she also was a woman with 5 boys. Okay, so she had 5 boys from her first marriage. So she was used to that kind of unbridled masculinity without any respect for the feminine, because he was just that. She would say, I have to go to the bathroom. He'd get up and run in the bathroom ahead of her when we're at a party. And we'd all be like, and she goes, isn't he cute? And we were all like, no. She thought it was cute. Like, what are you going to do? Moon and Aries. He had to go to the bathroom first, right? Yeah.
Okay, so for people who had big explosions last week, I see Kristen says, I ended a relationship with my job. I mean, so that can be the kind of like crescendo type energy last week that does give the energy you need to end things that probably needed to be ended, right?
Or brings up emotional issues you hadn't worked with. So I talked to a woman earlier today, and she had a fight with her boyfriend over the dog because he was spending so much time with the dog. Right. And I was like, you have to own that you're jealous of the dog. Right. It's like, it's okay, but they're separated, but the dog.
Yes.
And she's like, I was jealous of the dog. I'm like, I know. It's okay. Everybody last week was like, so this week we go, oh yeah, I was jealous of the dog. Right. So it's okay, but Neptune is not a planet we fool around with because we're careful. It's the ocean. Oceans are big and they kind of pull us off and they take us off course. But we also know that when it's over, we're in a new place. They also invite us into the rapture. We do find with Neptune aspects like we're having this week a lot of drug overdoses. Right. So people that are sobering up, or we've seen a few of them in the news, that kid that was 16 that overdosed. So it's Neptune is a delusion and an illusion, but it also is the rapture. And so the goal is, when it's a really important decision, probably wait till next week where things are a little clearer, but go along on the ride, go on the movie and look and kind of go, well, that's interesting. And then wait until it kind of calms down. Before I had like all these people posting wave pictures on Facebook, like surfing wave. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, I'm getting nervous about the guy filming the wave's going to get us. It's Neptune. It's that, what is it? A nice calm day at the beach, or is it a crashing wave that'll carry you off on a tidal wave or on a riptide? So we want to just know it's a lot of emotion this week, but it's not craziness. It's not like fighting. It's like emotion and emotional adjustments. And it also is a little bit of a sense of sadness because it's Pisces. So feeling like, yeah, we're doing this, but I'm a little sad about it. Or I'm a little, Pisces is kind of a melancholy sign. I'm kind of a we're opening it up, but, can it go back to what it is? So it allows us to have the sadness piece, that are back to our 5 steps. One of them is sadness. That like, yeah, everything really has changed. We're opening up, but we're not going back. We're going forward. So, yeah.
So last week we had all of that. We had the stationing kind of energy too with the retrograde.
Drama. Well, that's what made everything so dramatic. People couldn't take it a minute longer. They couldn't stay stuck anymore. They had to change. That's why it was a 9.5. Yeah.
Right.
This week they changed. Yeah.
So they were stationed, and that's usually where we feel them the most intensely, right? Mm-hmm. And so this week that kind of energy has dissipated. So we're like in retrograde now.
We're in retrograde.
Right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of, I read something, it might have been from us, I don't even know. It might have been something you said, I don't know, about Venus retrograde not being a good time to break up with people.
Well, it is when you break up.
It is when you break up.
But you're going to get them back.
Oh.
So everybody that's like, I broke up with them. I'm like, it's Venus retrograde. I mean, this one woman, I'm like, you really don't have to have a reading. You broke up with them on a Venus retrograde. It's like, okay. But it also is a returning, so I have a good friend who's in the process of dying right now, and she and her partner got divorced, and the partner went over and visited her at the hospice. And so the retrograde Venus was back on the Mars, right? So and the marriage planet was on the node. So she smiled because partner came to visit, right? So we can get our old loves back. This is also when they can call you and they say, hi, I've been thinking about you. And you're kind of like, oh, you've been thinking about me. And with Neptune, we don't remember the bad part, right? We kind of, oh, it would be so nice to hear from you. So you were thinking of me? So you hear from old people too on a retrograde. Love returns. Or if we break up with people on this, not really. We got to see where we get at the end of June when it goes forward again, because you're breaking up under an illusion.
Oh, wow.
You're breaking up under a Neptune transit. So is it a real breakup, or is it, now if we continue to drift apart, like that scene at the end of Titanic when he kind of sinks into the water, right? Jack! And he goes into the water on, that's the energy, right? But then when she's on the boat and the guy comes looking for her and she kind of hides, that's Neptune too, right?
Okay. All right. So last week you said in terms of working with the energy, it was about self-care.
Yeah.
This week, what would you say is our strategy for working with this energy? Shielding?
Mm-hmm. Remember, people are going to be very porous with bad boundaries or boundarying, where we say, I know you're feeling really emotional, but let me put a little boundary there on you. But it's going to be hard because it's kind of the tide coming in. We don't stop the tide. It comes in, it takes away our sandcastle. So people are going to be like flowing or retreating. If they're retreating, don't chase them. Let the Neptune go and then come back to it. But yeah, it's going to be a little hard to hold boundaries this week.
Okay.
You're going to eat your food. You're going to have the drink. You're going to want a little more dissolving into whatever. You're not going to do your homework. You're going to have an extra appointment, extra hour with your pillow in the morning. Because Pisces is also a lot about sleep and wanting to escape. Yeah.
Okay. So sadness, permeability, going with the flow, emotional tides. You said next week might be a better time to actually make decisions. Why do you say that?
Because the planets are going to be because right now they're kind of in a swirl of indecision. So what happens with Neptune is once it finishes, then you're going to get the invitations and you're going to say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's talk. And then you talk to them and you go, oh no, I remember that you used to do that and drove me crazy. We get clarity next week because we get a little space. Mm-hmm. So when we get the clarity, we'll have a little better. But right now we're getting the invitation and we might go, yeah, that sounds interesting. Or I'm feeling emotionally vulnerable, so I want to check in with you. We kind of go back to our bad old not things that we've moved away from, but we kind of regress. With Neptune transits, we regress. That's probably a good way to say it too. We go back to what's familiar. We lose some of our structure. So next week we go. Now we have a new moon on Friday in Gemini, right? But it's right as the Neptune is really peaking. And then once the planets go past, we're in another place. So a few years ago, I'm an astrologer. I'm a decent astrologer. I was having a big Neptune transit and we had a fire in the building on the third floor, which came up and, the firemen come and they knock a hole in my wall behind my piano. And the third floor was kind of burned out. And it was from, the guy was trying to build a closet in my living room. That wall back there abuts a bathroom. So he was my apartment on the first floor. And he put a hole in the pipe and then he tried to weld it. So there was a huge fire because he got a blowtorch to weld it and he caught the building on fire. The building's on fire. So the whole 2 lines withholding our rent. What I do is I pay my bills and then whatever's left, I get to spend. So I save and I pay, So we're on a rent strike. And I'm going, God, I'm doing really good. God, I'm really doing good. I got all this money in my own, spending money. I'm like, boy, I'm really doing good. I didn't put the money in the rent pile. I hadn't paid it because we were on a strike to get them to fix the building, right? So then the rent bill comes due. I'm like, oh my God, I owe him $24,000. Took a
Oh,
while.
God.
No, but I didn't have it because I'd been spending it because I thought, it's in the account. I can spend whatever's left, right? Completely brain farted on saving the money. That's Neptune. This is when you buy something really expensive that you totally don't need. And then you go, yeah, I spent a lot of money on that. Now, if it gives you the rapture, great. But it also is, you lose track of the details. Like, yeah, we're withholding the rent, but once they fix the wall, they're going to want the rent. Right. And so that was my Neptune. Yeah.
Okay. So new moon on Friday.
New moon on Friday, 2 Gemini. On the garden of the image is the Garden of the Tuileries, right? Which is beautiful space. So it's a very romantic. This is also a big week for proposals and emotional feelings, and people really feeling the rapture. Should be some really good albums dropped. Right before I came on, Taylor Swift canceled her tour, but she's going to do one on TV. People can also feel a little depressed on this one because Neptune is depression or need to retreat. So check on your folks that are maybe missing, because they're maybe feeling a little bit like the tide is out and I'm hiding. Yeah.
Okay. So now new moon is usually a great time to plant some seeds of intention.
Yes.
So
and this one,
go ahead.
Well, this one's big because it's got the Venus and Mercury are joined, and both of them are out of bounds. So they're acting a little wilder, and they're exactly square Neptune on the moon. And the moon is in cast for Washington as a Virgo rising at 1:39 in the afternoon. So it's up at the top of the chart. It's a baby moon. It's 2 degrees. So it's very little. It's kind of like new ideas. So it's got a lot of energy about, I want to do some new ideas, but it also has a little bit of a quality of unrealistic to it. So don't say, yeah, I'm going to give you $10,000 to do that. You say, I'll give you $100 to do, kind of do the, be cautious with the money, but commit to the vision, commit to the idea. So if someone hits you up, like, I think we should do this, totally go do it. Plan it, get the vision going, but just be a little aware that next week when reality kind of sets in a bit, it may feel like a little bit bigger than what you could do. Or what you will be able to. But the dreams are big this week with Neptune. Neptune amplifies everything. It's kind of like a fog. When you're driving in a fog, the world looks very different. And then when it lifts, you're like, oh, I can see clearly now. So it's also kind of a foggy emotional week. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the inner circle, we will be setting intentions together. We always do a new moon ritual, intention setting ceremony. And so generally we do it right at the new moon time and or a little bit after. So for people that are wanting to work with new moon energy and start to work with the moon cycle that way, they can be looking at, what'd you say, 1:39
1:39 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, that's when the moon's exact. Yeah.
Okay.
So adjust for your time zone. But then it's in Gemini. Gemini moon has, pretty good aspects. And then I kind of like a Cancer moon, so I will, so the Gemini moon, the closing aspect is a conjunction to Mercury out of bounds on Sunday, and then it is Memorial Day weekend. And then the Cancer moon, which is Sunday night, Monday, the Memorial Day, and then Tuesday till 9:06 p.m. Eastern again, is moon opposite Jupiter. So those are both amplifying moons. So if you're thinking of ideas, do it on the Gemini moon on Saturday and Sunday. If you're thinking of, kind of growing things, do it on the Cancer moon. And then I do it up until we get to Leo. The Leo moon at 9:30 is, and going void at 9:30 on the 28th is a sextile. So that's a nice, moon sextiles Venus.
Okay. So we have from Friday till
Wednesday.
Till Wednesday. 27th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thursday the 28th, the morning of Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. So any of those dreams that you're dreaming in, it's a good time to put them down on paper.
Gemini writing. Yep.
Yes. Between Friday and Thursday. And there's something that happens when you actually take that time to write it. It solidifies it. There's something that happens, I think, with our own consciousness too, that makes that intention more magnetic. And so things come into your life. You have the thoughts you need to have in order to bring that thing forward. It's really interesting working with intentions. And we've been doing it very rhythmically for years in the inner circle. And whenever I ask people to look back at their, like the intentions they set the previous new moon or the new moon before that, and I say, okay, how many of those actually came to fruition? It's amazing. I mean, I would say consistently around 80% of the intentions people experience. So if there's things that you want to bring in, it couldn't hurt, right? And it's a really great thing to start experimenting with. And it's one of those things that once you do it, you're like, oh wow, there's really something to this.
Yeah.
But until you do it, it's like, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, but remember, we manifest, we have idea, we give it a vision, then we have an emotion attached, and then it comes in. So when you write it, you're concretizing it. You're saying, I'm mentally Mercury committing to this, and then we flow. The other thing that happens with this new moon is we're entering eclipse season. So we have 3 big eclipses coming up in June, 2 in June and 1 on the 5th of July. So we'll be entering eclipse season where things get much more dramatic because we are emotionally more heightened. So while this is kind of a quiet week, take advantage of it because then comes eclipses, and you know what happens with eclipses. The last one, Meghan and Harry quit, so they're big. Yeah, yes. and these eclipses are going to be big. So, But yeah, I think this is kind of a little quiet space where everybody's going to feel, and maybe you're just going to say, I'm just really exhausted. I want to just sleep, because Pisces is a lot about or I want to just have a couple pajama days where I stay in, because it is that energy of I don't have it right now. I'm just feeling like I want to be. And Mars is in Pisces, so he's very swimmy. And so he swims over here and he swims over there. So it's not an organized, march, go, do, blah, 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 which we've had. It's going to be much more diffuse in terms of how we get things done.
Yeah. So indulge that desire to have the sleepy pajama days instead of feeling like you should be doing something else. Because we'll have plenty of time to do something else. Yeah,
you're just going to kick your butt in a couple more weeks. But right now, it's diffuse. It's like, okay, like what does that look like? And it is Memorial Day. It's your first opportunity for your grilled hot dog or your, that barbecue in the backyard. Right?
Ooh, is Neptune and Pisces also nostalgia? Because I can see that being a really great opportunity for people to feel like they're missing the old way that they might have celebrated or the way that people would come together. So
yeah. Yeah, Pisces, because Pisces is, remember, it's the last sign, so it's right before the spring, so it's very much about the endings and the wrap-ups, and the sign in the house, we call it kind of the dustbin of the zodiac, so it's a little like your junk drawer. Everybody's got a junk drawer. There's stuff in there. You don't really know what it is, but you kind of go, and this maybe in the junk drawer. It's like that kind of chaos of the junk drawer in our world right now. So the chaos of the junk drawer, where you go,
That's so amazing. And I was at Walmart
getting not Costco this time.
I'd actually say I'd put Walmart even worse on the category. I was missing Costco, but we went to get boogie boards because in Hawaii you can be at the beach as long as you're in the water. So my daughters and I have become like pro boogie boarders. I mean, not really pro at all, but we're having a lot of fun in the ocean. And the women in front of me in line, literally, I said to my daughter, I'm like, it's like they're buying the junk drawer. They're literally buying all those things that you see in the junk drawer, all those little knick-knacky things, and all in one shopping cart. It was amazing to me. So you're bringing it up again. And that's basically the period that we're in a little bit.
We're in the junk drawer. Yeah.
Oh
the cosmic junk drawer. So what do you do when you open the junk drawer? Do you sort around it and go, I remember when my dentist, I'd gone to see him and he said his parents had passed. So we were talking about it. He goes, yeah, we were cleaning out the junk drawer and we pulled out the spoon. And it was the spoon we used to scoop out the dead goldfish. We all looked at it. We all knew what that spoon was. It was like a spoon that held memories, right?
Yes.
And that was the goldfish spoon. The dead fish, it lived in the junk drawer. It didn't go in the silverware drawer. That was where, so we're cleaning out our junk drawers. And you may find you're kind of in the mood to pull out the old photographs or go on like a tour or do some kind of memory thing, because that's Pisces. Pisces is the memories. He's the photographs. He's the mists of our dream, the past, the gentle, what's that quote? The gentle cobwebs of our dreams. So you may find that. It also is a time where people are going to be very psychic, because the south node in Sag is on the galactic center. So really good time to pay attention to your dreams and pay attention to what messages are coming in and what you're hearing about how to do it. Right.
And talk about the Galactic Center for a sec, for people that aren't familiar
Don't
with
know what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
So when there's a point in the solar system, and you might have seen it, the Milky Way shirt with all the arms and the little thing going, you are here, the little dot, and that's our solar system. So our solar system goes around the galactic center, takes it 125 million years to go around the galactic center. So it's our solar system's sun. And when they were laying cable across the Atlantic Ocean in the 1920s, long before there were GPSs or anything, they noticed at certain points in the time there were static on the line. And of course, it's important if you're laying a cable on an ocean floor to not, like, did you cut the cable? But it was systemic. So the guy noticed it was at certain times when when certain constellations were rising, and it was the galactic center. So the Russians did a lot of work on it as a psychic portal. So planets on that portal are very psychic. Well, now the node of fate is on it. So we're all getting like psychic downloads. And I have a lot of people that, are kind of tuned in. If you have a planet on it, you get those downloads. So if you have a planet at 28, 29 Sag, or even a planet at 28, 29, it'll aspect the galactic center, but particularly the Sag folk. And they talk about like getting downloads in their brain. It's on a fixed star called Acumen, which is, Acumen is brilliance. So it's an energy portal that we tune into and we get information. So this is also information coming in where we're like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And remember, it's answering right now, it's in Sag, so it's answering to the Jupiter in Capricorn. So it's kind of guidance. I think of it as your cosmic guidance line. And it's that little voice, the people especially that have it, they go, yeah, my voice says I shouldn't do this or I should do this. It's kind of that, it's almost a disembodied, but it also has an energy of no. And you go, what? It's almost like you heard your name. So this is a very psychic portal for folks and people that have planets on it. I always joke with them, I go, ho, ho, ho. A lot of people with this think they might be from another planet and they don't really understand how the humans live. And they all go, I've always thought that. And then I lean in and I go, and you're from another planet. And they go, I always thought I was, And I'm like, yeah, because it's kind of one of those portals where you look around and you go, like, why are they doing it like that here? Like Mork from Ork. Why are they doing it like that? So if you have a planet at that point, a lot of times, you are an alien.
You are an alien.
You are an alien.
All right,
and
just like that.
And you know it.
Yes.
But we all are a little alien right now. We're all tuning into that portal. We're all getting that lineup, that information. So yeah.
And when does that happen exactly?
Oh, it's there. It started last week.
Started last week. And how long does it last?
It'll be through the eclipse.
Through the eclipse in June.
The next 3 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
4 weeks, yeah.
All right, interesting.
But it's right on it right now. And right now it's getting aspected by it. Planets are aspecting it. So we're kind of like, what am I supposed to do? So it's like, kind of think of it as you get the cosmic guidance. That's maybe a better way. When people have that, I always joke, when Paul was riding his horse and God knocked him down with a lightning bolt, it was Uranus on the galactic center. And, he kind of went, whoa, what's going on? So it's got that little bit of a cosmic moment to it. So, yeah.
Very nice.
But then you go, is it really true? And the answer is yes, it's really true. It's your wisdom. It's, do you trust that voice? And everybody I know that has it go, it's never wrong. That voice is never wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
So all the people that are going to go, oh my God, I'm going to say 27, 28, 29 Sag, 1 degree cap, 1 degree cap. Zero degree cap. Those are
the ones that are going to feel it the most.
Yeah. Well, that's where the node is right now anyway, but they're the ones that are going to really, once we say this, people go, is my planet on it? So you want to kind of look at that. And I'm going to say a lot of you probably tuning into this are on it because the Galactic Center folks are really here to help us see the big picture. That's what they do. In your life, you help people see the big picture. And so, the friends that know you're into astrology and go, is there something going on? You're like, or that little wisdom guidance you get, that you know what to say to someone when they're having a hard time. That's the Galactic Center. Yeah. So.
Okay, Anne. So we have a week where in the grieving process, some of us might be experiencing some of that sadness. That's okay. It's part of the cycle. So just allow yourself to be in it and ride that wave if that's where you're at. And so many times we attach so much meaning to these things, like I shouldn't be depressed, or why am I depressed? And you try to create the story around it. It's like, just, I am, and that's okay. And this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to shift because it always does.
Next week.
Exactly.
Next week we get a new number.
Yep. And I think if we can have some sort of openness within that sadness, then probably we would be more open to receiving some of those downloads and really listening to what the guidance is telling us. So.
Yeah, and if you do have some really interesting dreams, write them down. Or if you're sitting, this is also kind of the conscious dreaming. So there was Carl Jung, when he was coming back from his break with Freud, he famously was on the train and he saw Europe covered in blood. And it kind of freaked him out. But he was having a Galactic Center transit, and what he was really seeing was World War I coming, right? So it's got this energy of prophecy to it and kind of, seeing things ahead of time. So it's important for you to kind of note what comes in now, because it's often a little bit of a preview or a trailer for what's coming, Yeah.
I would love to invite all of you to share that if you do have those kinds of big epiphany sort of moments and you feel comfortable to share that under this video so we can learn from each other and see what's coming through. That'd be really interesting to see if people are experiencing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one other thing you and I had talked about at the beginning, so people have written, we do see what you write, about asking about looking at the COVID transits. And we have to be a licensed medical person to make predictions like that. And so what I would say, if you're a little older in astrology, go look up, go get some medical astrology books, look them up. They're out there. There's a whole class of astrologers called medical. And of course, you're going to look for things like Neptune, and you're going to look for things like aspects to the moon or the nodes, or aspects to Mercury, because it's a lung issue. But they'll be very clear. So in my case, I'm very careful. I have Neptune in the 8th, which is death from consumption, right? And I had tuberculosis in the 82 epidemic. So I'm being really careful on this one, because I can die from that. So you want to kind of look, it tells you how you're going to die, tells you where you're going to die, and it also tells you if you're going to catch it. So, but you have to know how to do it. But if you're a little bit advanced, go get yourself some medical, or go find a medical astrologer. Yeah.
Anne, what medical astrology books do you like, or do you recommend?
I like my favorite is the Cornell book, because it's got like everything. It's like this thick. Cornell's book on medical astrology. I think when you look at medical astrology, there's good stuff with Stark, with Coiner, Coiner. Jane Riddick Patrick, she's out of England. They've all written books on how to do medical. Diane Kramer. There's a number of medical astrologers. So.
Okay, and doctors used to be astrologers, right?
Hippocrates said, or is famously quoted, although somebody argued with me once at a conference, he never said that the Hippocratic Oath, if you're a bad astrologer, you're a bad doctor. Because astrology was the medical. And when the Catholic Church banned predictive astrology in the Middle Ages and said, no predictions, you're fighting with God, they said, keep it for farming and keep it for medicine. Because they used to cast a chart when you got sick and you took to your bed, and they would foretell what would happen. Of course, now we have medicine that intervenes, but back then that was how you figured out what was going on with someone. Mm-hmm. And I do, when I work with people, I had somebody come once and her mom was really little demented, and I said, she's being poisoned legally, which is a prescription, and she was getting a medication that had sulfur in it, and she was allergic to sulfur. Got her off the medication, and her brain came back. So medical astrology is, a very big component of it, and you can, pick a good surgery date, pick a good whatever, but again, and it's a regulated field by the doctors, and they don't like astrologers necessarily meddling in it. So we're not going to do it on a live podcast like this.
Well, and I would just say, assess your skill level in astrology. This seems to me like you could open up a Pandora's box of hypochondria and paranoia. Just if you're more advanced and you're skilled and you could go down that route, then absolutely. But for those of you who are new, this is not for the faint of heart. This is like very advanced, very skilled, mastery level astrology. And it's interesting to have so many new students in our Do Your Saturn workshop. Thank you to all of you who have joined us. It's so amazing to know so many of you are interested in doing your Saturn work at this time. But there's some really new people to astrology who you can tell they don't know yet how much of a lifelong study this is and how rich and deep and endless it really is. It's so people, I know for myself too, when I first started learning, it's like, well, I should be able to look at a chart and figure it out. It shouldn't be that hard, right? It's like, it takes some time. It takes some time.
It's forever.
I always say to our new students just to enjoy, like, if you can go back to being a child and maybe you didn't like school, but maybe you liked learning other things, just tap into that childlike beginner's mind and not be so focused on a goal of like, I need to know how to do this now. It's like, it's a truly unfolding process. And it's an opportunity to fall in love with the process of learning again. And, breaking through your own boundaries and realizing, oh, I can learn more. And I know more than I did last time. And Anne's talking about eclipses. And now I know more about eclipses than I did last time. And so it really is, it's very cyclical. And it
is. And every degree in the chart corresponds to a body part, right? So you can actually look at the degree. So like I have Saturn at 6 Scorpio. Scorpio is the reproductive areas and Saturn rules tumors. So I have a uterine fibroid in the left side of my uterus. So I'm like, all right. Yeah, it's very literal. Very literal. So it is, but again, that's like, there's a whole other branch of astrology, right? So, but it's definitely worth it. And the other book I would add is Ebertein's book. He has a book on medical astrology.
Can you spell Ebertein?
Ebertine. It's a little more advanced.
Okay.
And Max Heindel, Heindl, but he's got a medical astrology book too, but that's going to be an old book you're going to find on half.com. It's not in publication anymore. So.
Okay. All right.
But there are medical astrologers. Google medical, and you can get a list of all the degrees that the planets are on, and then you find your Saturn and you find your Sun, and you're going to go, I did break my left leg at age 12. It's like very cool. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Astrology, it's like mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for being here with us today. For all of you, just a couple things. First of all, thank you so much for tuning in every week and giving us the feedback that this is helping you. And someone said, well, and Anne, we should probably talk about this. They're like, please don't ever stop them. And I said, well, we've talked about doing them through the end of the year because Anne said we're going to need it. And I said, so as long as we need it and as long as we're able, we will be here. So,
well, this is this is my job. I have Saturn in Scorpio, so I'm supposed to help you with astrology. And Amanda's job with Saturn in Leo, she's supposed to create. So we're doing our Saturns when we do this. And we like each other and we're having a good time. And you guys seem to like it. So that's half the battle.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to receive the weekly digest of all the special edition episodes, you can go to astrologyhub.com/podcast, put in your name and email, and I'll make sure that you get an email once a week that summarizes all the different free content that's coming out from Astrology Hub each week, including this segment with Anne. And also you can still do Your Saturn Workshop. So
it's right out there.
We had the live Q&A last week that is now recorded and a part of the workshop. So you can still tune into that live Q&A. We're also adding a few more resources to the workshop, including Anne's recommended book list for all Saturn work related things. And also her summary of ideal professions,
which I haven't done yet.
By house. So you'll be getting those 2 additional pieces from the workshop that came out from the Q&A. People were asking, we're like, oh, let's just make another couple resources. So those are in the
which would be really helpful. Yeah.
So if you want to tune into that workshop, it's astrologyhub.com/Saturn. Astrologyhub.com/Saturn. So that's it.
That's it. Have a great week. A new moon, new beginnings. And remember, you have a new moon every month in a different house in your chart. So if you do Amanda's or just your own moon ritual, and then next month it'll be in the next house, this will help you activate each house every month. And because the moon, as it goes through it and the sun goes through it, the sun likes to bring that house alive. And we like new moons because they initiate our emotional content with our ego purpose, and they say, okay, little bird, grow, grow. And so you want to always do a new moon ritual. If you can, if you remember, I know. It's another thing to add to your list, and you're like, oh my God. But this is actually a really good family thing.
Yes.
Like the family all sits around, everybody thinks about what they want to do, and you teach it to your kids, and they kind of are like, Mom. But then they grow to love it, and they're like, don't we have to do a new moon ritual? And it'll be one more thing on your to-do list as their mom. Yeah.
Yes. I love it though too. It connects us in with the rhythms of nature, which in and of itself has benefits beyond setting intentions. So
totally.
It's a really beautiful practice. So thank you, Anne.
You're welcome, Amanda. Bye, everybody. We'll see you all next week.
Aloha.
Okay. Aloha.